Consulting Leaders Podcast, where we talk about the business of consulting. Whether you're looking to grow your practice or learn from the stories of leaders in consulting, you're in the right place. I'm your host, Guillaume Jouvencel, ex-PwC and co-founder of GHA Marketing. Join me as I interview the best consultants in their niche. Let's get on with the show. Dina, welcome to Consulting Leaders. Happy to have you.
Well, thank you, Guillaume. I'm really happy to be here today.
Likewise. All right, let's jump straight into it. What got you into communication coaching, Dina?
You know, it isn't a straightforward story. I'll try to make it brief for you, though. My background's actually engineering. I became an engineer because everyone told me, you're good at math and science, you should be an engineer. I never stopped to think, do I really want to be an engineer? I actually had wanted to be a teacher, and it took a long time till after I had been an engineer for a while. After I had children, I decided to homeschool for a while. I learned how people learn as part of homeschooling. I taught science in a homeschool co-op. I actually ended up overseas for a while with my husband. We lived in France. And when we returned to the US, I got to pick something new. And I ended up volunteering for a political campaign, helping out the candidate. I was the one, because I knew so much of how people learned, that I was the one who got through to her and helped her prepare for a televised debate. And then I got asked to help another candidate and another candidate. And I decided I wanted out of politics. I didn't want that to be my field, but I realized I had something with the public speaking, the coaching there. And so I continued to educate myself a lot more. I got an etiquette certification and I founded Queen City Etiquette and have been helping people in this realm for, I think it's been 8 years now. Yes.
So I find that interesting because I get it, though I believe it's easier to make the shift from engineer to teacher than teacher to engineer if you're further down your career.
I think it would be a lot easier to make that. And in fact, it's interesting. I've met a lot of ex-engineers who are doing some type of education, tutoring, or helping people as well. There's a lot of us out there that went into engineering for the wrong reasons.
Fair enough. It's funny because Hussam, my co-founder, is an engineer as well. Dina, how do I communicate like a politician? If you had to teach that to me in 30 seconds, which I'm sure is definitely not the way to learn a new skill, how would I do that?
So if you need to communicate like a politician, you have to have a few items, facts, things that are really important to you, who you think are important to your constituents as well, and learn how to pivot what you're saying to get to those pieces. You also need to be able to speak with absolute conviction and confidence. You cannot falter in those moments that are critical when you're being questioned. That would be it.
That sounds like, so first of all, this is amazing because that was less than 30 seconds. Congrats. And that sounds very much like what a politician would do indeed. So tell us, since you wanted actually to get not out, but not focus only on politics, tell us about the problem that you're solving now. What is it that you help people achieve?
Sure. My big thing is I help people interact with confidence. I tell them that the communication piece is really everything you say and do. So sometimes there is a part of it that is the etiquette piece that goes into building the confidence. So the problem I am solving is that people who feel like they are not communicating with confidence. And there's a lot of things that could go into why they aren't confident, but I end up being the one who takes them from that non-confident position to confidence.
Why is it important?
The number one reason it's important is that we have confidence in the people that are confident. If somebody is trying to sell you something or convince you of something and they are hesitant and doubtful themselves, well, there we go. We're hesitant, we're doubtful, we don't commit. That is the number one reason why it matters. Yeah.
So it's to sell.
Not always to sell. As far as we might think of selling a service or selling a good, sometimes it's even just selling our ideas and our thoughts. And I think that is a lot of times what it comes across for people is that, well, nobody's listening to me. Nobody believes me when I tell them this, or nobody will do this. I had an idea and nobody adopted it.
That would make a lot of sense.
Mhm.
So tell us a bit more about who you're helping specifically now, because people is broad. You've mentioned politicians already. What is your sweet spot now? Who is it that you're helping inspire and speak with confidence?
Yes. So my sweet spot is usually triggered by an event. My target audience is not necessarily people of a certain age or demographic, or even necessarily a certain industry.
Hmm.
For the most part, it is triggered by either getting promoted or a new job, or wanting to get promoted and a new job and feeling like don't have the communication skills necessary for that position. That is my number one trigger and the number one group that I help. There's also a second group that I help, though, and that is those who have a big fear of public speaking and they're just ready to get over it. Sometimes there's an event triggering that. Maybe they're going to go to a conference, they want to appear on a panel discussion, or they want to even present at a conference. There's a lot of speak to sell opportunities, and people feel that their fear is holding them back. So, those are the two groups of people that I primarily work with.
That's interesting. So I'm going to assume that for the first category, that will be promotions to a certain management level, right? When you start needing to
Yeah.
sell your ideas and
Yes.
sell your thoughts so that people follow you and deliver the best output. For the second one, that does make a lot of sense. You know, I've always been thinking when I will start speaking at conferences, I will need to get a communication coach. But like panel discussion wasn't something I was thinking of. It's just like, it's much easier. You're part of a group. You just have to express yourself on the specific ideas. So, what kind of, but obviously it doesn't make sense right now that you're saying it. I'm like, yeah, that you want to stand out in a panel discussion as well. You want to make sure you communicate well with the others, with the audience. So,
Yes.
what do you typically recommend when it comes to communicating well and with confidence in a panel discussion?
Sure. In a panel discussion, there are two keys that will really make a difference. And one of those is to have the confident body language, the nonverbal communication, being able to look at the audience and not just looking down, being able to have some ownership of your space to show people, I belong here. That nonverbal piece is really important. The other piece that makes a big difference is actively listening. If all you're doing is trying to plan in your head what you are going to say next, you're missing opportunities to stand out. And that can be things such as acknowledging what somebody else has already said. You will really elevate your own presence if you don't just answer the question looking at the audience, but you say, now I know that Mary mentioned this. I tend to think about it a little bit differently. Doing things like that can really elevate your presence and your status, even at an event like that, such as
Mhm.
the panel discussion.
That does make a lot of sense. So, what you say, your body language, one thing that you didn't mention, Dina, is how you say it. What about tonality, volume?
Tonality is extremely important.
Mhm.
We know from research that has been done years ago that when you are communicating and you're speaking, how you communicate comes only 7% through your words that you choose, 38% through how you say those words, which is the tonality, and then 55% nonverbal. You need to have that confident tone of voice. You need to have a tone of voice that matches your words. If you are trying to talk about something and you tell people, I am very passionate about helping people gain confidence in speaking, no one's going to believe you. They aren't. It's like telling people, don't panic, calm down, it's all going to be okay. That doesn't work. Your tone of voice has to match the
Yeah.
words you are saying for people to believe them.
The second example, I love her, makes me think about my mom a lot. Um, so let me pick your brain for a second, Dina. And that's very self interested.
No problem.
When it comes to communication, and here I'm thinking about communication in an English speaking country like the United States, presenting, getting people to follow, getting people to buy from you. how important is the English accent? The reason I'm asking you this is, and it's not to get into any politics whatsoever, it's just, I think, facts. There is like a conference and a business coach that I follow a lot. Someone asks him, hey, what's the best way to do business with the US as an Indian person? And the business coach answers, having no Indian accent. And it's like, people will just, they will assume you're American, and it's much easier for Americans to do business with people they perceive as Americans as well. So he's like, that's the number one thing. You're fluent, that's great. Accent, you need to get rid of it. What are your thoughts on this?
So I have to admit, I'm a little bit torn on it. It is definitely going to depend on a couple factors.
Mm-hmm.
So in certain industries, having that accent that says I am a non-native English speaker can be an issue. If you want to get into even certain areas of the country in the US, it might be a little bit of a barrier. My experience, though, and I have worked with a lot of people from India, is that oftentimes it's not the accent that is preventing them from being understood and getting their message across. Oftentimes there are other pieces that are underlying issues. One of them is even just the speed at which they speak. There's this idea of trying to get through things as fast as possible, and whoosh, it goes over people's head. They don't understand it. There's also oftentimes a lack of clarity, not for the pronunciation of the words, but clarity of the message. And the message doesn't get through because of what I call over talking. Imagine I give you an idea and you have it, you grasp it, but I continue to keep talking and adding so much more detail and information that I cloud over that original message I sent you. Well, now we've lost clarity and you don't have any idea of really what I'm trying to get across. I've lost you, especially if I'm speaking too quickly. On top of all of that, I haven't paused to give you a moment to digest the information. Clarity is lost. And that can be completely independent of an accent. I have had success with students who have had very strong accents. For me, part of it goes to a philosophy of speaking without fear instead of without air, which if you know French, it sounds much better in French. Everything sounds better in French. C'est mieux à parler sans peur que sans heurts. It actually rhymes in French.
Boom.
Yes. So I find that sometimes even that lack of confidence is a big issue with a non-native speaker. I imagine, though, that losing the accent also boosts confidence, which is one way to get that confidence as well. So when it comes to removing an accent completely, I have seen people have great success with an accent once they clear up the communication piece.
That is so interesting, because that is maybe we can talk about this off air. That is a very big, not concern, but interrogation of mine. I'm like, how much, because I mean, I'm fluent in English, and it would be the last 20% of the efforts that would add an incremental 1-2% to my communication potentially. But is that 1-2% worthwhile, depending on who I want to talk to and like how? So that's very, very interesting. Let's discuss this further off air.
We can discuss that. Yes,
I love that, and the amazing French speaking skills, by the way, Dina.
Well, they're a little rusty, but that's I think that's a reason why I work well with a lot of non-native speakers, is because I lived in France. I had to communicate day to day in a language that wasn't my native language. And oddly enough, apparently I spoke French with a British accent. Everybody thought I was British. Nobody knew I was American.
You know, this is so bizarre. Like, I just spent 3 months in the US and everybody was thinking I'm German. I don't know why, but I was like, the French accent is quite recognizable. Maybe I got rid of it, but not enough so that people still perceive I'm foreign. I don't know. It's interesting. Back to your clients, though. So you help people who basically just underwent a big event, such as a promotion, or they're going to be speaking at a panel discussion or at a conference.
Mhm.
So that those are two quite different avatar, if I may say. And when you're like, my target clients are people who just lived something or went through something versus I'm targeting, male, 45 years old, that industry, that role, blah, blah, blah. It's a bit harder to get in front of them.
It
So
is.
what has worked for you to get people to find you and be like, not quite yet signing because we want to discuss sales motion as well, but at least what has worked for you to market and brand yourself so that people come to you and find you?
So I will say I had one big win this year. I
Okay.
had been reluctant to hire someone to do SEO work on my website, to do my website work. And I
Hmm.
finally broke down and hired someone to do that. And I would say almost immediately, I had a positive return on investment with that because I had people finding me from different areas of the country. Google used to send a lot of people within an immediate vicinity of my location
Hmm.
to me already. But now I'm being found by a broader base of people. So that was one
Amazing.
big piece. I was reluctant just to invest the money in it, I have to admit.
Hmm.
The other thing that has worked for me this year is I have been more active on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And I was surprised by how many people found me through LinkedIn. That just was a pleasant surprise as well. So those are two new avenues for me this year that have brought in a lot more clients.
Amazing. What? So let's get into this
Mhm.
because usually SEO actually takes a bit of time, right? So what did you? I mean, do you know what that person did to enhance your SEO? What?
No, no, this that I wish I
Hi.
did. One of the things that I think made a difference is that I
Mhm.
had a blog added to my website. And
That's good.
while I don't have a ton of articles on there, I had written some articles already, handed those over, those were uploaded. So I
Mhm.
think that was a big piece of
Yeah.
it is just hitting those SEO terms through the blog posts I had created, maybe getting them tweaked, tagged. But I don't know if you're familiar with the session with the expression about how not wanting to know how the sausage is made. And I would say
I know
that
it.
when it comes to things like my website, SEO, I will admit that despite the fact that I'm an engineer, I
Mhm.
really am not that interested in that. And I will say I'm a chemical engineer, so maybe that's why
It's a
the
bit of a stretch.
it's a bit of a stretch. So I wish I could answer what they did, but honestly, I have no idea. That's why I paid them. I paid them to do it for me.
Right. So, okay, this is just too good, Dina. So I'm gonna double down on a couple of things here.
Uh-huh.
First of all, this is great because you've actually hired someone to do a job. They did it well, and you were
Yep.
like, "I'm going to focus on my swim lane, which is send me people who are in need of communication coaching, and I'll do the rest."
Uh-huh.
So that's actually something to live by because I think a lot of B2B coaches and consultants want to do everything by themselves and like started because they are reluctant to invest the amount of money, which I totally respect. So that's one. The second thing is, and that's maybe for the takeaways for the audience, B2B coaches and consultants who are thinking about SEO. First of all, SEO is not dead. We are recording this in December 2025, and AI is all over the place
I
now.
know the AEO, yes.
Right, but LLM bases itself on actually
Mhm.
90% of the things that work for SEO as well. Anyways, so a few things that can definitely work. Adding a blog section to your website, 200%. Having articles, but not just blog posts, articles that are based on what your audience, your avatar
Mhm.
is typically looking for and adapting to those keywords. And then providing an insightful piece of content. That works pretty, really well. A very good way to do this, wink, wink, is to have a podcast, have conversation targeted towards your ICP and transform those episodes into articles as well. One of the things that you mentioned is that you were popping up locally already, and then you
Mhm.
started getting requests from all over the US. What I suspect your team did as well is that they optimized for specific locations as well.
Ah,
For instance, communication coach in Houston, whatsoever. So if you're thinking of implementing SEO, this could be a good trick. And thanks a lot for sharing this, Dina. LinkedIn, what is working for you there? How are you doing LinkedIn?
So I have to admit that I was doing it very consistently, and
Hmm.
we can talk about this in a little bit. My issue with inconsistency, because when I get the clients and I get very busy, I back
Hmm.
off on the marketing and the other things. So that is definitely something that I have not been doing as well. I really put a concentrated effort into LinkedIn. I had some consultations with some coaches. I paid someone, again, another one of those invest in my business. I paid someone to tweak my profile, to do some work there. And I was following a strategy for a while. I have fallen back from that. I'm actually joining a whole coaching program for LinkedIn I'll be starting that in the new year to try to build that consistency, which has been lacking. But I did get students who were contacting me through there searching. I had one person who contacted me because of a specific post I made that referenced Dale Carnegie and some other things there. So sometimes there are some little things that you don't expect that will actually bring in a client. I was really surprised by his story of how he found me.
How to win friends and influence people.
It actually wasn't that, but
Okay.
it was more about the positive attitude piece and mindset
Okay.
is sometimes what I talk about. Yes.
Very fair. Very first communication book I ever read. Um,
It's
which
it is
is,
a classic. It is definitely a classic. It's been around for a very long time.
and it's just so great. The funny thing is, and since you speak French, I'm gonna allow myself a bit of French here. The way it's translated in French is quite different. It's more like comment se faire des amis. So
Ah,
like how to make friends.
yeah.
So a vast majority of the French public at first thought that it was a book for people who couldn't make friends, but it's actually how to win friends and influence people. So it's much more around the behavior and the psychology
Yes.
of the human species. Fascinating book if you haven't read it. Cool. That's how you make LinkedIn work. That does make sense, and I like that. So one of the things I want to highlight here again, Dina, is although reluctant for the SEO thing, as you said, you're doing things to go to the next level and to try to implement and to market further. Because I think one of the flaws that many B2B coaches and consultants fall into is they rely on referral mainly,
Mhm.
and they get into this feast and famine cycle where they're like heads down into a couple of projects at the same time. So they don't think about content at all. And they
Yeah.
wake up 6 months later with no pipeline because nobody know they exist. So I respect a lot what you're doing.
Yeah, I've learned my lesson. I definitely have been there with that feast or famine.
Mhm.
I've had months where it's been fantastic and I'm just really busy. And I know that neglecting the content, neglecting the marketing aspects of the business come to haunt me, 6 months later. So
Fair
that
enough.
is definitely something that I have learned my lesson. And that's one where I feel that some investment is going to pay off or is paying off, like the LinkedIn optimization. As I said, I'm going to be joining a coaching program in the new year that I'm hoping will give me the accountability I need essentially
Mhm.
to keep the consistency.
I respect that. Tell us a bit more about your sales motion. So someone learns from you from your website, from
Mhm.
your LinkedIn, from referral, because I guess those come as well. How do you move the initial conversation from hey, cool, okay, we are solution aware, problem aware, like Dina helps people with communication skills, to letter of engagement, we rock and roll? How do you get people to cross that finish line?
So for my individual students, because I work with also teams. I will have people who will hire me to work with their entire team, maybe do some group programming as well. So there's two aspects there. So for the individuals who contact me, we usually have a phone call, a discovery call. I always start with a question. Tell me more about what prompted you to reach out to me so that I can understand what they are doing. I will then tell them, okay, I understand your problem. I will explain how I would work with them. We talk about their goals and the results we expect to get. And I am upfront with pricing. I am upfront with, hey, I think it's going to take you this long. Here's what I recommend, and try to get them to commit during that call. And I have a really high conversion rate. for that part of things. So that tends to work really well. Most of the people, because it's an event trigger and not a demographic trigger, are ready. When by the time they contact me, they're ready to go. There isn't, I have to admit, there isn't a lot of selling I have to do. And I think that's why I have such a high conversion rate for the
Yeah.
individuals that contact me.
So actually, now that you say it makes total sense,
Mhm.
because so something that, again, I know a lot of B2B coaches and consultants will struggle with is getting their clients to actually,
Mhm.
take the leap,
Yeah.
make the move, sign the contract, send the first payments. And the reason is it's hard, especially on higher ticket, to really create that urgency. Sales cycles take a lot of time.
Mhm.
In your case, it's triggered by an event. It's like, I have this speaking thing in 2 months. Like, I need to be ready. So it's like, since your clients are coming from inbound, SEO, LinkedIn, it just makes total sense. And that's a very good and beautiful aspect of your business, I guess. Now, the tricky part, I suspect, will be on retention. So my next question to you is, how do you retain once you've worked with that, newly promoted person or that new speaker person, and they've made it? How do you create recurring? How do you keep on working with them, all whilst providing value to them, obviously? How do you do that?
So for a lot of my clients, once we get through the program, I'm not going to work with them again. And that's part of what I understand. Now, I have done a few things though that have helped. I do have some students that once we get through the program, we schedule a monthly check-in, a follow-up. And so they're coming to me once a month. And it's almost like a maintenance program that I've been able to put quite a few of my students on. I wouldn't say it's huge, it's definitely less than 50%, but I'm putting them on this maintenance program. And so I do retain them longer. We check in, anything they're working on, I keep going. The other thing, though, that has helped me is to maintain the relationship with the people in order to continue to get the referrals. That has been successful. I will send out like happy Thanksgiving messages through LinkedIn, or when I see someone mention that they were promoted, of course, I'm going to check in with them and see, oh, what's going on? Tell me, I'd love to hear more about the job, want to do a virtual coffee. Sometimes I've had those students come back to me. What has happened sometimes, though, is that I will very shortly after I've reached out to someone, tried to talk to them, I'll get a, hey, I'm looking for public speaking help. So this other person referred me to you. So I may not always be retaining the client, but I'm retaining them as a referral source, which keeps my pipeline going.
You're very good at this. So, something that I want to double down on here. Everybody tries to optimize for recurring business,
Mhm.
but sometimes the nature of your industry and of what you do doesn't really allow that.
Yeah.
Unless you come up with a new offer, I don't know, a mastermind for past clients and so on. This is possible, of course.
Yeah.
But if you want to keep focusing on one offer, focusing on reoccurring business, meaning getting people to get back to you because they have another one, or to transform clients into referral partner, is amazingly smart, because they've been through it. They will know what it is. They will know other people who will get promoted and who will have to speak at conferences, and they will be like, I might know just a woman. So that is very smart.
Well, one other thing that has happened on multiple occasions that I do want to add, and I don't know
Yeah.
if there's other people in this situation that work with individuals and with teams. I have had these students that I have worked with one-on-one, these individual clients, go on to recommend me to their employer. And I'm then brought in to work with the team or to a group and pick up a larger contract from that.
That is very smart indeed. Okay, so you will do group coaching with more of a B2B structure.
Yes.
Actually, so that's interesting. When you talk to an individual who just went, who just got promoted or he's going to speak, is it them who pay for the coaching, or is it their company?
It's a mix.
Interesting. Because then I assume when you switch to the company doing a group coaching, it will be the company, obviously. But so
Yes.
you're B2C and B2B in your coaching,
Yes.
technically.
Technically,
Super
I am. Yes. I do sometimes invoice individuals.
true.
They are investing in themselves. They are paying for this coaching in order
Yeah,
to help them. Some of them are also probably using it as a business expense, but they are still having me invoice them directly. I do invoice companies as well. I have had people contact me. Hey, my company gives me X amount of training money, self-development. What can you do for that? In fact, I just sent out a contract from a company that contacted me. They're like, we have this training budget that's going to expire by the end of the year. Can we get something scheduled?
Oh, shoot. And we need to spend it ASAP.
Right. That one was like, oh, I don't think I can do it. Of course I can do it. Of course we can get this done. And the thing is, I actually upsold them. We are doing a group program, and I'm going to do some individual coaching with people, follow up on it as well. So,
Absolutely amazing.
yes, because I knew what their budget was. I knew there was a little bit more budget than what my program was going to
Cover.
cost. And I was,
Okay.
well, what, I think would be really beneficial for the people that want to do this, because I'm going to be doing group public speaking coaching with one person who wants to go on a podcast, another one who wants to speak at a conference. They have all this outreach that they're doing. And I suggested that it would work well to follow up individually, because each person's goals were different. So we could then fine tune towards their specific goals.
It is so funny that you're teaching me right now, Dina, that some people take communication coachings before they go on a podcast as a guest, I imagine
Oh,
you're
yes.
saying, right?
Yes. Oh, yeah. I have trained people. I have one student that immediately comes to mind. Her company decided she was going to be the voice and the face of their company.
Okay.
And she came to me because podcasts were one of the primary vehicles they were going to use for their company for a little bit of marketing. And she was going to be the one that was going to have to go on there. I train people for all sorts of different things. I have had clients that have appeared on CNN, gone live on Fox News even.
Not bad.
I've had people that have had all sorts of different situations. Yes. But podcast is absolutely one of the things that I have worked with people to be able to do.
That is very interesting. Okay, a bit of a curveball for you, Dina, because I feel this interview has been a bit too easy for you.
Okay. It's just my confidence. I'm practicing what I preach. I'm answering with confidence.
Here we go. See, that wasn't a curveball at all. That was a soft one that you could just home run the hell out of. But that is very true indeed. So let me ask you this. In your business, what is the challenge that you're trying to fix now? What is the thing that if you get past, you'll take the business to the next level? What is that one crux?
That is not a hard question.
Okay.
And it gets to what I spoke about earlier, which is the inconsistency in my efforts to market. I am really working on that. That is going to be something where I have learned my lesson, the feast or famine. I started out January at a high. I was doing really well. My projections for the year were amazing, fantastic, but I was very busy because of it. And I cut back on some of the other efforts. And then by summertime, I was thinking, where is everyone? And then and then I got back in. And by the fall, I had picked back up again. I need a balance. I need to have that consistency, because I feel that right now, and I'm sure a lot of consultants can agree, you've even mentioned it, that I don't necessarily have that consistent level of income of clients that I would like. So that is my number one problem right now, is that when I get busy, I back off a little bit, and I can't do that.
Thanks for sharing this. I don't think everybody would. Now, to give you a bit of credit as well, you're taking actions to solve this, right? You've already mentioned the SEO, you've mentioned the group coaching for LinkedIn and consistency. So how are you thinking overall at fixing this issue in 2026 and forward?
So I'm feeling pretty good about it. The other thing is I have plans that I am going to start selling some some products, some master classes. I have a few workshops that I have run. Some of them have been actually as webinars that I've done multiple times. And I realize I need to make these available to individuals. So I'm hoping I can level out my income by recording these and start packaging them and selling these as well. Because I think I need to take some of these corporate programs and get them to be available to individuals.
Yeah, that does make a lot of sense. Dina Schmid, ladies and gentlemen. Dina, if people want to find out more about you, see what you do, where should they go?
So my business is Queen City Etiquette. I'm at queencityetiquette.com. They can find me on LinkedIn. That is my most active social media. I'm not a fan of Instagram or Facebook, so I tend to not be on there as much. I do have a YouTube channel as well for Queen City Etiquette.
I love the name. We'll put all the links in the description. I'll also say this. I can guarantee one thing. You got one connection at least out of this interview, Dina. Me, I just added you on LinkedIn.
It's great. So
here we go. Dina,
right.
Thank you so much for coming on Consulting
Thank
Leaders.
you for having me. It was my pleasure. It was a lot of fun speaking with you, Guillaume.
Likewise. It was great. Thank you so much, Dina.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Consulting Leaders Podcast. We hope you learned valuable lessons on how to grow your practice and take your business to the next level. Make sure to subscribe and leave us a review wherever you're listening to this show so you never miss an episode. To apply and be a guest on the show, click the link in the description. See you next time.
Okay.